Okay, I'm recording now. I think. Cool. Okay. Thanks so much, Tanya, for doing that.
That was fun.
Good. Yeah, and I know it's like, you get your heart racing when you have to type in front of everyone else. But that's the way we learn. So, great. So the last little thing that we'll talk about, I'm going to talk about dictionaries super quick. We won't actually do the exercises, and then we'll talk about functions. So can you guys see, am I sharing my screen?
Yeah, you're sharing it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I'm going to clear my terminal. Sometimes in Cloud 9, if you want more space, you can just click workspace, and it'll like show your files or not show your files. I'm going to go into dictionaries really quickly. And then remember to if you want in Cloud 9 to see your whole line, you could wrap lines. The reason they're not wrapped is because generally you don't really want really long lines. You want to parse out your things. You want to write code that's clean, which means short lines, but because I'm so zoomed in, that's okay. Okay, so when we looked at favorite numbers, we just had a list right here. We have no idea whose favorite numbers these are, right? Mm-hmm. So it'd be great if somewhere in the computer science world, someone created some kind of structure that helped assign individual items to like their owners or to certain like unique keys is what we call them. And there is, and that's called a dictionary. So this is right now an array. It's not very helpful. But if I wanted to use a new data structure called a dictionary, it's very similar to an array, except it starts and ends with these curly brackets. So I'm going to take, or let's just read them up here. Let's make a new favorite numbers array. So it was 4, 21, 9, 37?
Yep. 4.
Okay. Cool. So let's say like arrays are great, but they're limiting. If we want to like add some extra information, we can turn it into a dictionary. So if I want to say my number dictionary equals, I start and end with curly brackets, and I separate each value and like the key, meaning like how do I identify this with a semicolon. So whose first favorite number was 4 again?
Mine, Anika.
So Anika's favorite number, and then separate it with a semicolon, is 4. Who is 21?
Tanya.
Tanya was 21. Remember, we're separating them with colons. And then just like an array, each item in our dictionary is separated with a comma. 9 must have been Teji. And then Jenny, I hit enter. You don't have to, you could keep it on one line. Jenny's favorite number was 37, separated with a comma. And my favorite number was 4. Python's yelling at me because it doesn't like that it's on a separate line. It doesn't really matter, but that's my dictionary. So what are some advantages between a dictionary and an array that you guys are already seeing? Or are there?
You're ascribing an element to an owner, so
Yeah.
There's more details and there's more details.
Yeah, exactly. So we're able to see like not only do we have lists of elements, we actually or like list of values. Now we have a value, but each value has what we call the key. So the keys in this case are names, which just helps us keep our data more organized. So another example, this is my family and what we majored. So I studied engineering, my husband studied political science, my mom studied psychology. If I want to, just like an array, I can do some operations on dictionaries. If I want to get just a single value of like, wait, what did Miles study again? I would write something like print family majors, because that's the name of my dictionary. And then just like in arrays, we index with numbers. In this case, the index is actually these labels, or what we call keys. So now I can just say miles. Now when I print it, what the computer's going to do is it's going to pull up the family majors variable, which is this. We assign that variable to this, this set of values. And then within those values, we're going to look at the miles key and pull back his major, his value.
Yeah, maybe so. There she is.
Sorry, I somehow got disconnected.
Oh,
Kind of scared us because Tanya was the host.
I was like, we're now the host. That's kind of smart for it to do, I guess.
Oh, just just the teacher just ghosts and see how the students can figure it out. Okay, let me share my screen. I don't know when I
do it.
I don't know when I stop talking, or when you guys stop hearing me.
I don't remember.
Okay. Well, I think you had mentioned that dictionaries are essentially more valuable because they can be like a scribe or something.
Oh yeah, and then you like told us what like each of the elements inside of a dictionary data structure are called. So the element before the semicolon or before the colon
is called a what? The string before the semicolon, what do we call this? Tanya,
Can you hear me?
Yeah, that's the key.
Oh.
Sorry, my internet is like in and out. Yeah.
Okay.
So the key is the first part and the value is the second part. Keys are always strings. Values, just like we saw in this example, can be, again, any data type, including like, blow your mind, they could be like, if Anika had like a bunch of favorite numbers, we could actually store it as an array.
Oh, okay, cool.
So I actually didn't know that until like I was coding for many years. So don't worry if that was like, what did she just do? But essentially your value can be any data type, including an array itself or even its own dictionary. What we want to talk about is dictionary. Yes, a dictionary inside of a dictionary. So meta.
Oh my God.
It's actually tomorrow. Well, I don't know if we'll get to APIs. When I do an API lesson back on campus, you'll see like most data is like dictionaries inside of arrays, inside of dictionaries, inside of, like, you know what I mean? Like how it's structured, which we'll kind of parse through. So just like we can index favorite nums by doing something like favorite num 0, which should print what number should that print?
4.
Yeah, 4, because it's our first item. Nice. We can start counting with 2. Just like we wanted to do that, if I index the dictionary, instead of using numbers, I can use these keys because those are like the keys. They unlock the value. I could say numdic Tanya. What number do we think what number should that be?
21.
Yeah, 21. Perfect. That's probably all we really need for dictionaries because I want to get to functions. The only thing you need to know about iterating through dictionaries is that instead of, if I printed this right now for name in family majors, let's see what that would do. We're not running that, we're running dictionaries. So it prints out just the names, which makes sense because that's the first thing. If I wanted to print the majors though, the syntax is for name, comma, whatever you call the second thing. If I call it apple, print apple. So the first thing is the key, the second thing is the value, and then it's gonna go ahead and print the value, which is, remember, the second thing after the semicolon. Let me save that. What? Too many. Oh, and then instead of using family majors, you have to use this method called iter items. That allows you to go inside the dictionary and iterate and get the actual values. So now I'm able to print the majors. Remember, you are the developer. So it's just the first thing that you put will be the key. So this could be anything. This could be pineapple. And then apple. This is the key, this is the value. In our case, the key is actually people's names. So it makes sense not to call that pineapple. It makes sense for us to call it name. But you're the developer. You could call it whatever you want. And each of the values, in this case, represents a major. So I'm going to call it major. And then I could print major. Or I could print something like name, studies, or studied, major.
Oh.
And whenever you do string concatenation, you're spacing. You just have to think through it. Remember, these two things you could call whatever you want. You could call this dog, and you could call this cat. What Python's interpreting it as is the first thing that the person puts in is the key, and the second thing they put in is always going to be the value. Variables and figuring out what goes where when you're learning new like syntax is tricky, but you can decide what you're going to name things.
I have a question. Why did it print it backwards? It started with Peggy and ended with Nikki.
Oh, because Peggy is the key, right? The key comes first, so it's always key value.
Oh no, I meant
Like a reverse list.
It's like the reverse of the list.
Right, you're right. Nikki.
Is it like in alphabetical order because it's a dictionary? Or?
I have no idea.
Well, that makes sense, Teji.
Let's just, if we just wanted the for name and family majors and see if that's reverse or forwards. Family majors. That's a good question. Where's value? Line 7. Don't freak out when you get errors. Just go read it.
Oh.
There you are.
There it is. Okay. Now let's run it again and see if I got rid of that error. I did. So even if I'm not iterating, I have no idea. Because even if it's just the names, it's still... let's just print family majors. Let me see what the order is.
Whoa. Hold on.
Oh, for some reason, family majors, see how when we print it, Peggy did first?
Yeah.
How did it get... Oh, great question. Sorry, I haven't thought about this in a while. The thing about dictionaries, because as Tanya said, we ascribe them to certain things, order doesn't matter in dictionaries because they're assigned to a key. In arrays, order matters because the only thing that keeps them apart from each other is their index, is their number. But in dictionaries, they're indexed by key, so it actually doesn't matter the order. Which is dictionaries will essentially think about you as a human. And I could give you 6 numbers and tell you have to keep these in order. That requires a lot more processing than me just saying here are 6 people's favorite numbers. But since you know who the people are, I actually don't care what order they're in. Whereas if I had told you here are 6 people's favorite numbers, their names, and keep them in order, as a human, you would get rid of whatever's not important. So at that point, what's not important is the order I gave them into. What is important is that you know that Tanya's favorite number was 21.
So then if you care about the order, you're not going to use a dictionary, you're going to use an array.
Yes, but almost, yes. I think there's a way to do an ordered dictionary in Python if for some reason you needed them to be ordered.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, really good question.
But what is the difference between dictionary and array? Just because you can assign a key to the value, is that the only difference?
Yep, that's the difference. Meaning it usually makes more sense to store things as dictionaries because on line 2, we don't know whose favorite numbers they were. So here's a bunch of stuff, but we don't actually know anything about that stuff.
Okay.
Whereas in dictionaries, we can say like, here's a bunch of stuff, but we can like label it in a certain way with a key, so that when we're going to go get like that specific thing, we can go retrieve it by indexing it that key.
Okay.
Again, this is kind of like Tanya's question of like, what are the point of arrays? It's almost like, what are the point of dictionaries? It's a little bit hard to see in this like low level,
Right.
but they're useful once you start like putting pieces together.
Okay.
Good question. Okay. Let's do this. I'm going to walk you guys through functions quickly, which is like a really hard thing. You guys can do the challenges on your own and email me with questions today. And I'll try and hop on the computer today afternoon to answer those questions. Does that sound good?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. All right. Functions. So actually, Anika, I know you were a developer in a former life. What's your like definition of a function?
A function is basically like an equation. So you're giving it several commands to do something.
Yeah.
So I always think of functions as equations, just as in math.
Yeah, so just like we might have an equation that's like y equals 2x. It doesn't matter what the x is. If it's 3, if it's 5, if it's 10, it's always going to do the same thing to that x. It's always going to double it. And so with functions, there's always an input and an output. As a new coders, like this is super tricky. It took me a really long time to understand how the variable names were moving around. And that's okay. If you feel like that this is like really confusing, that's fine. Like remember, you just started learning Python 2 hours ago, and like most people don't start learning about functions until like, you know, their 4th or 5th day in a class. But they will be helpful tomorrow as we put together an app. So definitely reach out with questions. I'll also give you guys some resources to look into. I hate to cut this short, but I do have lunch plans with my parents. Okay. So functions, essentially a function is like, let's say there's something that a app does over and over again. So for example, when you hit the like on Facebook, somewhere on Facebook's back end, they took that like users' likes and they just added 1.
Mm-hmm.
So somewhere they're doing that over and over and over again. It doesn't make sense to write different code for each person and say, like, when Teddy gets a like, take his likes and add 1. When Tanya gets a like, take her likes and add 1. What they're going to do is encapsulate that into a function. So that function might look something like, can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. It might be, let's say, I'm going to say, the like button has been pressed. Whenever we write a new function, we have to define it. It's almost like Python, again, knows some things, but it doesn't know functions. So we have to say, hey, Python, I want to tell you something new. I want to define like a new thing that you know how to do. And now it knows how to press the like button. Just like in a for loop, we say, but I'm not done yet. Let me tell you the next step with a semicolon. When I press the like button, I want you, let's say in this case, it's just going to print 1. That's the number of likes. So it's going to print the number of likes equals, and then it should print the number 1. We're going to get an error here, but I want to get it so that you guys are used to seeing those error messages. Python, and the name of my file is functions. Oh, it didn't give me an error. It actually didn't give me anything because my steps for making a function is I need to write the function and then I need to call it. So just because I've defined press the like button, I haven't actually told the computer to do the like button. So in order to actually tell it, hey, Python, here's what pressing the like button should do, unless I actually tell it to do the thing, it's not going to do the thing. So let's see if that works. And I need to print it so that I actually see it. All right, perfect, an error. Remember, an error is never a bad thing. It just gives you hints. This line is on line number, always read from bottom to top. So even though it says line 5, the thing it's actually complaining about is on line 1. And it's saying, type error. You can't concatenate, which means add. You can't concatenate a string and an int. That means I don't know how to add a string with a number, right? You can't add those two things. So I need to convert this to a string before I can add it. Let's see if that helps me. So right now my number of likes is 1. Let me get rid of these other print statements. Instead though, Teji probably already has some likes, or Tanya already has some likes. So if I wanted to add a parameter and say, well, how many likes are they starting with? I put something called an input in there, meaning in order for my function to understand what's going on, it needs to take a piece of information and then do something with that piece of information. So it's gonna take in starting likes, which again is just a variable. I could call it start likes. You could call it whatever you want. As long as now we're gonna print the number of likes is actually going to be 1 plus, this is a bad example because it's pretty complicated. We'll do some simple ones too. We're gonna take 1 and we're gonna add it to however many starting likes they had, and that should be how many likes they have. Because this takes one argument, the function takes one argument, when we call press the like button, we need to call it with a certain amount of likes. So Tanya, how many likes do you have on a post right now?
I have no idea.
37. Perfect. Okay. So she's got a really popular post right now. What the function's going to do is it's going to take this value and it knows it's going to call it start likes because that's just how how Python is set up. Once it has that value, it's going to store, I don't think that's 1,000,000, whatever number that is in here, it's going to add 1 to it. And then it should print number of likes equals this number plus 1. So let's see if that works. Yay, Tanya, you have 1,000,001 likes. Sorry, that was like actually a really complicated example because we did string concatenation, we converted the numbers to a string, we added a parameter. Let's go to something easier. So a function, again, has your def keyword, meaning I'm going to define something new. Python, I want to tell you how to motivate me. What I'm going to do is say, I want this motivation message. And for me, it's going to say, your paper is due tomorrow. Let me wrap the lines. Your paper is due tomorrow. Start small, write a paragraph. Great. And whenever I call this motivate me function, what should get returned, or the output, remember Anika said it's like there's an input and an output. The output should just be that motivation message. I could call the function and it's doing that, but it's not printing anything unless I explicitly use this print. So now when I'm printing motivate me, it's going to call motivate me. That means Python's going to go look up what motivate me means. And what motivate me means is to use this motivation message and to give me it back. So now I get the message. Let me do one more and then I'll take questions. So let's do one together. Let's write a function that gives instructions for applying to a job. So the
Nikki's going to go away in 1 minute, less than a minute.
Oh, shoot, dang it. Okay, we'll do this fast. If I start with the keyword def. I'm going to define apply for job, and then there's no parameters, and then colon, and then I'm just going to say instructions are submit resume, cross fingers. The only way there's something that comes out of your function is if you actually return like whatever is happening inside your function.